Ready for all the craziness of small business. It's exactly that craziness that makes it exciting and totally unbelievable. Small Business Radio is now on the air with your host, Barry Moltz.
Well, thanks for joining this week's radio show. Remember, this is your final word in small business. For those keeping track, this is now incredibly show number 580. This episode is provided by Nextiva, the all-in-one communications platform for your small business. It's also sponsored by LinkedIn. It's the place to generate leads, drive traffic, and build brand awareness. For a free $100 credit to launch your campaign, go to www.linkedin.com/SBR. We're also sponsored by vCita, all you need to run your business in one software. Try for free at www.vcita.com. That's VCITA.com, and use Barry10 for an exclusive discount. Well, there are plenty of people out there that are really good at making money, but not really great at investing it. Financial literacy in this country is low because people believe that millennials have no idea how to invest money in the long term, especially with the recent financial downturn. Here to help is Tim Sykes, who's the CEO of Millionaire Media and author of the best-selling book, An American Hedge Fund. At age 22, Tim became a self-made millionaire when he turned his bar mitzvah gift money of $12,000 into $1.65 million, short-selling penny stocks while studying at Tulane University. He managed a hedge fund for 4 years before entering the financial education industry. Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
So let me get this straight. You took your bar mitzvah money and you invested it in the market. What did your mother think of that?
She thought that I would actually lose it all. They gave me control, thinking that it would be a good lesson, but I messed up the lesson by making millions of dollars.
Well, I guess it was a good lesson, right?
It was a different kind of lesson. I choose this lesson over her lesson. So, but she never lets me forget that, it was supposed to teach me the value of a dollar, not spoil me like it did.
It's really interesting because my younger son is very much into, investing in the market and things like that. And I'm trying to, teach him that it's a good thing to learn those things. Why is financial literacy, especially among millennials and Gen Z, why is it so weak?
Probably because, the best investments, the best trades take a long time to research. You don't get that instant gratification that a lot of younger people get on social media, even though this is far more important over the course of your life. So we have to try to, motivate people to actually want to learn and teach them patience because, you frankly should have your money working, for you even while you're doing something else. It should be working in the background, but you have to put in the time to actually study and figure it out first.
It's interesting because I think, when I was doing a lot of this back in, 1999, I thought I was a freaking genius. And I think a lot of people until recently, over the last 10 years during the market recovery, thought they were freaking geniuses too, right?
Yeah, you always think you're very smart when you're making money. And then, just the last week alone where the markets are down 10, 15%, that kind of helps people realize, wait a minute, maybe we didn't really understand valuation and risk management. So I, frankly, the past 2 years have been underperforming because I've been very conservative. But now, I make it all back, the returns over time, especially with the past week. It's been a fantastic week for my students and I because mainly we short sell. So we've been short selling very nicely this week.
And people have to understand when the tide comes in, all boats rise. And so what can millennials really do to really invest in the long game? Because that's what people really have to understand. It's interesting because now, as I've gotten older, I've got shorter and shorter period of time to invest, so I've become more conservative. But people that have the next 30 or 40 years to invest, where should their financial education, Tim, actually start?
Yeah, I think that you don't necessarily just have to invest in these big blue chip companies like people think, and then maybe, you'll become a millionaire 30, 40, 50 years from now. I think you have to have a little historical perspective and realize that, the past decade, the past 2 decades have been phenomenal for investors. and the next decade might not be so much. So you have to start thinking about the risks. And, just as this one coronavirus exposed, I mean, we are at all-time highs, and one virus can really take us down and expose the whole system and probably some overvaluation. So I would encourage people, especially the younger generation, to look on YouTube. I mean, I have over 1,000 videos on YouTube, but just start Googling around different financial terms. You can really become financially literate by just putting in the time. But sadly, most people don't use YouTube for that purpose. They're watching cat videos or new music videos, or they're using TikTok. So I would encourage people to use social media more, but really, brush up your financial skills and focus on education rather than just entertainment.
Yeah, it's not all puppies and rainbows, right?
It can't be, that's the problem. Like you said, a rising tide lifts all boats, but 3 out of 4 stocks follow the market. So right now when the markets are going down, I mean, even gigantic companies like Disney is down 15, 20% in the past few days. And you don't think that that's possible until it actually happens. And then you start realizing, wait a minute, if there's a virus, people might not want to go to Disney, to these crowded places where you have higher risk of getting infected. So you have to start thinking outside the box. And, the one thing that millennials and younger people really have is that, they don't know what they don't know. So it's not just about PEs and, proper valuations. You might start investing in different technologies that have greater upside, and they might not have, proper valuation right now. Just like Zoom technologies or, Slack is another technology company that a lot of small businesses are using, and these are upstarts. Not quite really blue chips yet, but they could be. So I would encourage really people to start thinking about different kinds of technologies that are changing the world. Facebook bought Instagram for $1 billion when it had no revenue. Everyone made fun of the deal, but now Instagram, is worth anywhere between 50 and 100 billion, and it turned out to be a great deal. It's not just about revenue right now. The world is changing so fast, you can invest in future technologies. So
talking about media, you were also on the TV show Wall Street Warriors. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, I don't know if you can tell, but I kind of have a big mouth. I like to talk about what I do. I mean, I sit in front of a computer all the time, so it's good to get out. So I was on this TV show just showing my kind of crazy life. When you turn a few $1,000s into several million, and you grew up in a small town in Connecticut, and now you can travel the world, life is pretty exciting. So a camera crew followed me around for a few weeks and just kind of documented my wild life outside of the markets. It's good to make a lot of money. It's not just about the money and growing your bank account. It's about what it can do. And, I'm very fortunate enough to travel all over the world and, meet some pretty incredible people. And we filmed it, and it turned out to be a hit.
And so when was that on, Tim? What episode should we be looking for?
This was a decade ago, but
wow.
It keeps airing and keeps popping up. I was also on the TV show Below Deck on Bravo, where you charter a yacht for a few days, and they film that. So I brought some of my top students, and I actually made like $70,000 with 3 cameras in my face. But they didn't show the trade. They just showed me, acting all cocky afterwards. And everyone's like, why are you so cocky? And I'm like, you didn't see the trade. So
right.
There's ups and downs with the reality shows. You have to accept that, but it's fun.
So, Tim, we're possibly at the end of, a 10-year, bull cycle. What is your recommendation for not only millennials, but people today?
Yeah, just realizing that cash is an asset. Gold is an asset. Like, everyone thinks they have to be invested in stocks. They have to be invested in real estate. But if the stock market's going to drop 10, 20, 30%, and the same with real estate, you don't want to be anywhere in that niche. So really start thinking outside the box. Like, I'm very liquid right now. Even consider maybe some cryptocurrencies. I know they're speculative, but Bitcoin has actually held its gains pretty well. So start just diversifying into cash, into Bitcoin, into gold, and start thinking outside the box. That is the key, because not enough people do it.
And so when you say outside the box, are you you're a short seller, so you're expecting things to go down, right? So what do you...
I mean, I short sell, I go long. I'm just more nimble.
I see.
And that's why I really like cash, because, what if this coronavirus, God forbid, I hope it doesn't really go everywhere, but what if it does? And then you have a 50% stock market drop, and all the people who are just buy and hold, and they're down 50% versus people who were just moved to cash just in case, now they can dip buy everything 50% off.
Right. So you just don't really know what direction it's really going to take. What is your forecast? If you look into your crystal ball, Tim, what do you think is going to happen?
I think that we've already had a 10-15% correction, so most likely we're near the bottom, maybe another 5% to go. But, this is also, viruses are just very unpredictable. We don't know how much it's actually going to spread. The fatality rate is not as dangerous as Ebola, but people are just staying home just so they don't catch it, and that's wrecking the global economy. So it's tough to judge how far the virus will go. Until this week, we really thought that it was contained mainly in Asia. So I don't want to say that it's definitely over, but it's looking closer to the bottom than before. And so I start thinking about, what are some potential dip buys? Like I am looking at Disney because Disney is a strong company, and I don't mind dip buying it, at a nice 25% off sale.
It's interesting. It's interesting to me because I'm not even sure where we are with the virus because we just really learned that, especially in the United States, we're not really even testing people, right? So we've tested like 500 something people, right? We've tested some like 507 people. We've had 15 cases, but over in the South Korea, they've tested like 65,000 people.
And that's the thing. Like China, as bad as it was, they did a fantastic job locking down like literally hundreds of millions of people. And in our society in Europe, like we just can't do that. And that's why it's spreading in Italy. That's why, it's scary that there was a flight attendant and she flew several flights and there were 100, 200 passengers on each flight. So it's very scary. And, again, this is why, what do I see in my crystal ball? I see cash. I see staying liquid. You don't need to, try to be a hero right now. You can just wait it out. And if it does get really bad, you'll have some nice investment opportunities. That's the one upside of something that's very bad. But all of a sudden, the global economy is looking very, very shaky. So this is not the time to be aggressive yet.
It's interesting. One of my new conspiracy theories about the government is that we're not testing people, so they can't say there's more cases in the United States. And so we can say there are only 15. So who knows?
That is very possible. Some people might think they just have a cold or they have the flu, and they don't know that it's this new, virus. So they're probably infecting other people. This is out of everything. Bill Gates said this years ago in his speech, and he said, like, out of all the scariest things, a pandemic, some virus that just gets out of control would be the scariest thing. The one good thing with this virus is that, again, it has a rather low fatality rate. So even if you get it, it's not the end of the world, but it's scary to think about. And again, the biggest risk right now for the global economy is just people staying home.
Exactly.
Not traveling, not going to the movies, not going to Starbucks, not going to school, not going to the malls. And that's, that's the global economy.
Exactly. I flew in from L.A. the other day, and there's a Chinese gentleman that's sitting in the chair next to me, and the first thing he says to me, he goes, "You don't have to be afraid of me. I haven't been back to China in a year." I'm like, oh, my God, this is so sad. So last question I want to ask you, Tim, was bar mitzvah boys are listening to your advice everywhere now. Would you say, hey, they should take their $10,000? What should they invest it in?
They should invest in their education. I read probably 300 or maybe even 400 books as I was trading. I got started in 1999, 2000, so I was very lucky in the right place at the right time. But I made my second and third million short selling as everything else was crashing. And I only learned short selling because I read several books on that. So, really stock up, get everything you can on Amazon. And again, even if you don't want to spend money on your education, now you can just use YouTube, listen to podcasts like yours. Listen to radio stations, listen to literally whatever information you can, and not necessarily following everyone's tips, but more just trying to learn how the financial system works and where, there's some opportunities. Some people like dip buying, some people like long-term investing, some people like Bitcoin. You have to find what is your comfort zone, but you don't find that right away. So I tell everyone, especially younger people, to think of themselves like scientists and just test different formulas. And there's no, one magic formula for everybody, but you start feeling what you have a knack for. And that just means, putting in the time and experimenting.
Well, if you want to get in touch with Tim, you can go to timothysykes.com. It's TIMOTHYSYKES.com. Tim, thanks so much for being on the show.
Hey, thank you again, and stay safe, okay?
All right, this is AM 820 WCPT. We'll be right back.